This time on Vintage Steel Garage we get back to work on the board racer. Okay, so we're going to get back to work on the board racer and I'll tell you for why. Not done a right lot since Christmas, if I'm honest. A couple of weeks back into work, just getting back into it, cold and wet, miserable, not really feeling like doing much, probably watching too much YouTube. Thought I need to get out there and get something done again. It's dark in the rest of the garage in there, so I'm not going to do anything on the Porsche or the Dart for the moment. I don't really want to work outside on the drive on the Mercedes, but I do want to make more noise. It's far too quiet, and I also want to lower the suspension a bit. So what I thought I'd do, I'll pick up like I did last winter with the board racer, which is there. So it's all scratch built frame. Well, I say scratch built frame, I basically took a mountain bike frame, took it all apart and rebuilt it. If you just walk you around it, I'll show you where I got to, why I think I remember I stopped, and let's see if we can kickstart it off again in the new year. So if my memory serves me correctly, as I say, it's a scratch built frame. The only thing that sort of remains original in the frame is actually this tube here. The relationship to this on the back stays here. Everything else, this part, the bit to the top tube, the middle tube, the headstock tube, this tube is all fabricated. The forks, they're original, and then I put these extra strengtheners on, part for show to make it look as if they were spring forks, and part just to give it a bit more rigidity. I can't remember where I got the handlebars from. I think there was some car boot sale. This was from some auto jumble accelerometer. What was I saying? Accelerometer for the handlebars from a car boot sale. This I got from a auto jumble. Lawnmower engine, Suffolk Colt. Actually, it's not. It's a Colquast lawnmower engine, 98cc, all aluminium, with a little carburetor on it there. The seat I fabricated myself. I just made a bit of a template up. You can see a cardboard template there, just peeking behind the unit. Made it up myself. It's the first time I had got one. It's not perfect. It certainly isn't comfy, but it sort of looks like what I want. Broad seat here, tapering into the front. I'm not going to leave any padding on it because it's more of a show vehicle. The idea is it'll just go in the back of my truck when it's finished and look pretty. On the front, it's got a drum brake here. This is off I think it's called a Paisley bike, old post office bike in a hub, re-sproked into a mountain bike hub wheel. The tyres are, where's the name on it? I think it says Fat Frank or something like that. There we go, I like that. Fat Frank. Obviously I'm not called Frank, but one of those words is true. Anyway, so these are the tyres to give it that sort of board racer look. I had my good friend Chris do some machining on here, who actually, if you do watch this channel, you watch his channel, Chris from All the Gear No Idea, is going to be up at the weekend, and we're going to go to, where are we going? We're going to go and buy some random electrical equipment for an auto from a car boot sale. So no doubt we'll get up to some mischief. So where did I get to on this? Right, well, I think what happened was I started rushing along as you do. The engine was misfiring. In fact, this is the engine I had on. It's the same engine, it just doesn't have the cover on it. So as a relationship to that goes, this would be this way around like that. So you can see it's a pretty lightweight engine, you can tell. 4-stroke engine. So this is the engine here. I took it off because this one in my hand here was misfiring. Well, I thought it was misfiring or not running right. Basically, it was like fuel starvation. You'd open the throttle up and it had just bogged down. It wasn't running right, and there was a bit of a vibration. So I thought, look, I'll take that off, put the spare engine on. Put the spare engine on. That ran like a sack of shit as well. I got two different carbs, tried the carbs, they made no difference. Tried modifying the exhaust, that made no difference. So the engine was running crap. And then I cobbled together this chain drive, which obviously, like I say, Chris did a good job at the back end here. And then you go through this sort of, I'll call it a lay shaft. In fact, look at that, it's a shame really. It's been a whole year just pushed in and out of the garage. And you can see there's corrosion on it now. I'm sure we could pass that off as patina. Anyway, so I came up with this lay shaft here for driving it. So if we're going the right way around there, so that gives you the drive on this side. If I go around here, I then decided to go, I don't know why, I went for a pulley drive. So this is coming round here. Obviously this will go onto the engine and this will turn round here. I think the reason I went for a belt drive here was two reasons. One is I didn't fancy losing my leg with a chain, although admittedly I've got a chain that side. And I also thought what I could do is make some sort of a slip clutch, which is why I grafted this on here as a pulley. The idea was I'd have a lever up here, pull in, it'd put some pressure on a belt, you'd get drive, you'd take the pressure off and it slips, so it's like a very primitive clutch. Anyway, it didn't really work properly and I just got the belt fixed, so it was like a fixed speed, bump started it, went for a bit of a drive round the block. So I basically got this lashed in, went for a bit of a bump drive around the block and well, it didn't perform very well. If I left it on tick over, it cut out. If I put it on full throttle, it just bogged down. So I think it was a combination of a lot of quick fixes, quick botches and rushing along. And I think the reason I was rushing along is I wanted to get my Porsche ready to go to Le Mans and I could see time ticking away, so I basically cobbled it all together, ran around the block. Was pretty disappointed and threw it to the back of the garage to be picked up today. So I think what we'll do the right thing, and when I say the right thing I do mean the right thing. Usually when I say the right thing I mean the wrong thing, and we're going to do it properly and look at things. We're going to start off looking at the engine behind me here. I'm going to start off looking at this and take it apart and see why it wasn't run properly. I'll actually have a look inside the engine and just see what it's about. It's a little 4-cylinder, it's not a 4-cylinder at all, single cylinder 4-stroke engine. So let's take the head off and have a look in here. Okay, so here we are. Brew in hand, engine in hand. This is a Colquast engine, 98cc, single barrel, 4-stroke engine, and it's actually, I forgot what I was saying. Okay, so as we were saying, we're going to start in the right way and have a look at this engine, have a look round it. So it was running a bit rough, but I think that was more to do with the carb than anything else, so I made a rush decision, swapped the engine over, and then it was a catalyst of failures and I just gave up. So what I've done, we'll look at this engine. It's a Colquast aluminium engine. I obviously last year had more time on my hands than I thought, took all the paint off and polished it up so it would look nice, but it ran terribly. So what we're going to do, we're going to strip the head off, took some of the bolts out already, have a look inside, have a bit of an explain about it and see what we can do to improve it. Now I'll tell you something else I did since we've last spoke. I actually rebuilt the bathroom, put a new bathroom in and done a little bit of woodwork, and there's absolutely wood sawdust filings everywhere. Bit of a nightmare, but I should have cleaned all that up first. Anyway, anywho, right, so here's the engine. There, flat head. Now then, if we just zoom in a little bit, you can see it's a little bit different to your normally what you'd expect on a cylinder head is valves in it. So it's what they would call, Americans I think would call it a flat head. We would call it a side valve engine. When I say we, the English, but I suppose it can be used both ways. Now the advantage of a side valve engine is the valves are driven off the cam here. If I take this cover off, and we'll have a look, and I'll show you inside here. Let me get this cover off. Right, so we'll just take this off. Take these bolts out of here. Let's just go back a little bit. So this you would call it a tappet chest valve cover, so it's got a little breather on it. Right, now if you look in there, you'll see those are the valves. Let's get a torch. Okay, we have a torch. Right, you can see there's the valves. So if we turn this engine in the correct direction, which, let's think about it, it's got to be that way, because that's the way I run forwards. So let's stick an arrow on here, we'll always wipe it off afterwards. So we're going that way now. That's normal direction. So if you look in here, you can see the valves. No, you can't. You can see the valves there going up and down. And they're the valves on the top here. You'll see that one go up and then that one. I need to get a better angle on this, don't I? Let's get a better angle. So let's show you how this works. So if we do the normal direction, so this is the piston, these are the valves, this is the inlet valve, which is quite carboned up, and this is the exhaust valve. So, and that's the exhaust port and the inlet port. Okay, so I got the head off the engine here, and we just have a look at it a little bit better. Just going to run through this engine, how it works. It's quite interesting. Little dinky engine. If you get the principle of this, then you can say for the Mercedes or the Dodge Dart V8, it's just this 8x8 in principle, although they're overhead valves, where this is what's called a side valve engine, because the valves are at the side, or some people call it a flathead. The reason they call it a flathead is the cylinder head is flat. There are no moving parts in this, it's just a piece of aluminium with a combustion chamber in and a hole for the spark plug. So how it works is the gases come in here, get compressed, go down, bang, that's how you get your engine. So it's a 4-stroke cycle. So it starts off, piston here will go down, the inlet valve opens, sucks fuel in through here into this combustion chamber. Piston gets to the bottom, that valve closes, this goes up, compresses, as it gets to the top, fully compressed, bang, that ignites. In fact, you can just see there, that's the point where it ignites there, where it's a lighter colour, which, and again, is sort of unusual on a side valve engine. It's in the middle there. Can you just see that there, that little shadow, just there? And the reason for that is it's between the valves and the piston. You'd normally expect it to be somewhere over here on an overhead valve engine, because that's just a combustion chamber over there, but this is the whole combustion chamber. So we're at the top there, we've got bang, the spark plug ignites, this goes down with the power of the explosion. As it gets to the bottom, the exhaust port opens. As it comes up now, pushes the gases out, we're at the top, and we're ready for the next cycle of suck fuel in, down to the bottom, up to the top, bang, the power throws it down, it comes back up. As it comes back up, it pushes the exhaust gases out and sucks the fuel in, and we repeat the cycle. Now, why a side valve engine with this for the lawnmower engine? Well, it's very easy to build. You've got the camshaft down here, so you've got the crankshaft down here with a cam, and there's some lobes on the cam. In fact, there may not even be a camshaft in this, I'm not quite too sure. There's going to be some sort of camshaft, can't just be on the crank, maybe it is, I'm not quite sure actually. Anyway, so these actually directly push the valves on here and lift up and operate the valve. So the question is, why a side valve engine? Well, it's probably the simplest engines, one of the oldest type of engines to do, because there's limited moving parts. You've basically got your crankshaft down here, your camshaft up here, and the lobes on the camshaft directly operate the valves and lift and close the valves. Whereas on an overhead valve engine, you would have push rods coming all the way up into the cylinder head and valves going down in the cylinder head with little rockers on. So you've eliminated all that. So why aren't all engines like this? Well, simply put, they're not very efficient. You've got, instead of getting the fuel's coming in and the process going out is not very good. They're not very high revving. Right, so let's start to get this cleaned up. Now, before anyone complains, okay, you shouldn't be really using a screwdriver to clean your engine, but again, this is a low power lawnmower engine. I'm not expecting to be doing anything fantastic in it, so I'm fine cleaning it up this way. If it's a Porsche engine, I may think about cleaning it with a wire brush and a screwdriver. But you can see the carbon's coming off quite easy. It's pretty much just chipping off. Oh, I'll tell you something else that happened with this engine. I remember now. I took the head gasket off just to have a look at it, and I snapped a stud. That's what I did. I snapped a stud in it, and again, my good friend Chris, all again no idea, came to the rescue, took the engine away, drilled it out. I think he may even have featured it on one of his videos. I can't remember now. If he did, I'll put a link to it. He drilled it out and tapped it out for me, so he did a great job. But I think by which time the enthusiasm had started to wane for the engine, so I stopped working on it basically. So let's get this cleaned up anyway. So you can see it's cleaned up pretty quick. Either the lighting in my garage is failing or my eyesight's getting worse. Ah right, I can see what it was. It's a little pin. So what I've got to do is compress the spring up and then slide the pin out while holding the torch at the same time and pushing the pin in. Yeah, this ain't gonna happen, is it? I just remember how I did this last time, because I did it on the other engine. Well, I didn't shine the torch in my face for a start. Right, let's try this. Okay, so we've got the valves out now. You can see in the end of them there's a little slot, a little hole with a little pin that went through. So this pin here, and I must admit off camera I've just vowed to get some better lighting for the garage because this is quite shocking. So that pin goes through there like that and holds it in place. So all you need to do is push the spring up and pull the pin out. So as we're looking at the valves now, always remember to keep them in the right order. So this is the inlet valve that was cleaner, and this is the exhaust valve, which they do usually carbon up a little bit like that. So I'm just going to do some basic checks, clean them all off, spin them up, clean them in the lathe, make sure they're nice and okay. Bit of wear on them, we'll just have to go with it. And then also you can see in here there's a bit of a build up of carbon in there, so that needs taken care of, cleaning out. So let's get to town working on this.